Hello, my friends. Jacob's here one more time. Thank you for pressing play. We're doing the 420 show. It's a big day, April 20th. There's so many things happening on that date. There's been so many things happening already that I'm just excited to be here. Yes, it's wormwood tea. I'm going to continue to drink this until the world gets better. That's not a vow. I'm not making that vow. Just once again, I felt like, hey, this time I loaded it up with some honey, and it's still pretty awful. But you know what? I'm starting to get used to it. Sometimes, life can get a little uncomfortable. But if we try to find enjoyment in it, at least you can be uncomfortable with some fun. At least you can be uncomfortable with a smile. Isn't that cool? All right. So we got a lot of things to talk about. A lot of holy things going down. Different religions, different faiths. They have this huge world religion. It's called Islam. You ever hear about it? My neighbors, good friends of the family, we love them. We love them. If you just saw my last show, if you just saw this last show, the one from yesterday or the day before, if you just saw that, that I talked about them when they moved in. It was a couple of years ago. He's very, very devout Muslim. And so Ramadan's been going on, and that is a fast unto God. It's a big deal. A lot of people make their trek to Mecca. They go around, and it's a pilgrimage. It's a big deal. Just like it was a pilgrimage to go to the temple back in the day for the Jews, where they start off at the well, the Pool of Siloam, which ironically was just dug up and is now being refurbished and now is available to the public again after Rome destroyed it, covered it with a bunch of sewage. True story. Spiritually speaking, the Pool of Siloam is waiting for everybody to go wash their feet and go on up to the temple, symbolic of the same pilgrimage that they take to go to Mecca. Ramadan, big holiday. Muhammad and his family, they've been, they have to fast. You can't eat from sunrise until sundown. Then you can eat. And then after this fast, which goes on for a long period, you can't even have water. Like Muhammad, every year he gets a little more svelte. He gets a little better looking, a little more, loses a little of that, that parenthood chub that we get when we get old. He goes through this fast, and the last day, it's called Eid. Now that's going to be on the 20th. That's April 20th. Eid, huge holiday. It's right up there, right? We just had, Greek Easter for the Orthodox faith. We had Easter before that, right? Then we had Passover. We have all of these holidays that are coming together, around the same time. 1 week, then another week, then another week, then another week. But on the 20th, Eid, huge, not normal, hybrid eclipse. It means a hybrid, so it goes from annular to total to annular again. Huge eclipse, right? So this is a big deal. So I've been texting Muhammad. Because of course I look at everybody, right? Jacob didn't have like everybody, all these world religions, they came out of Jacob's lineage. Jacob had a covenant with God, just like I do. But you have all these world religions, which are tied, ironically enough, to the patriarch Jacob Israel. To me, too, because I want to reach everybody. And so I understand these holy books and how they're playing out in the world. It's such an incredible time. Now, here's weird. So right before, right during Ramadan, about a week ago, maybe not even a week ago, pilgrims were there and everything else. And you probably saw on Twitter, I shared this, that there was a deluge, like a flood, like a flash flood, just pouring rain, like just out of nowhere, getting everybody soaked. Right, probably puts a kind of a damper on things. They've been waiting all year for this. They're so excited, come from all over the world to do this, and now it's pouring rain. Then you know what happened after that? It was like locusts. They came out. It was like they were coming out of the ground. They just covered the place. Locusts everywhere you go. You see this video right here. Take a look. They were pretty perplexed. Now, what's weird? I took this down on Twitter. I had it up for a little while, but then I took it down because I always try to get, validation, because I understood this to be a huge prophetic event, but not the way a lot of Christians were saying, because they're all like, oh, it's roaches, and oh, it's a curse upon them, and oh, and I told Muhammad, I said, that's what the Christians are going to think. Religious Christians, not you, not me, right? Religious people that don't know any better, because God speaks to us all through the faith that the people are brought up in. So there are these great signs that happen that would be recognized by those the imams of say Muhammad's mosque, or the rabbis of maybe somebody you know's temple. They would be able to see it because they understand their faith, and then they see it happening in the world. Like a couple of years ago, the spirit of Medina. Remember the horse that won, the Triple Crown? It was like a big deal, and then it was like accused of cheating because it had like a fungus. Remember that? The spirit of Medina? It was the big deal. I told you all about Medina, how it's the holy place. That's where the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as they say, for the first time ever, started to preach the teaching of peace, which is what it really is supposed to be. Big deal. He's actually buried there. So there was news going around that people were trying to visit the Prophet's grave, which, by the way, is in Medina, not Mecca, but they're, very holy places that are known in Islam. But the locusts that were covering everything, to me, I felt like, and I don't, I read the Quran, but I'm not very proficient in it. I read the Torah, but I'm not proficient in it. I read all these books because I want to be able to connect the waters. I want to bring everybody together so that we can all see that there is only one God, and that God is calling us today to come to the knowledge of the truth and the stature of the perfect man, which is Christ. This is like a prophecy that has to happen. And today's the day when it's happening. Risen, as they will, because today's the day. So, I do a little research, I do a little digging. I go, I bet you the locusts, it's a sign of judgment, I say. But not the way people think, not like a curse. Because in Islam, you probably don't know this, locusts, they have like dietary laws. Just like any other faith, some faiths in the Jewish faith, you have dietary laws, if you want to be kosher. Well, they have dietary laws too. And so some foods they can't eat because it's not prepared a certain way. Can't have any blood in it. They're very, very strict with this. It has to be what's considered to be halal. Halal is something that I've come to know and enjoy very much because my neighbor Sarah, she makes her and Muhammad make the best chicken, and they have this thing called halal sauce. And I'm all about the halal, baby. I'll tell you, that sauce is good. But halal it's a dietary thing. It's a big deal. Locusts, ironically enough, a lot of even Muslims don't know this. I shared this with Muhammad. I felt smart. They're halal as well. So here's not an unclean animal, if you will, that is Mecca, okay? That is coming at this time, right before 420, right before April 20th, right before the hybrid eclipse that's going down at the same time. Same time that there are meteors streaking over Israel. Woo-hoo-hoo! It's like a movie, like something right out of the pages of the Bible, and we're all in it. We're all witnesses, if you will. So I'm going to give you what I think these locusts represent, because years prior, they had the same thing happen. You'll notice that these things happen in spans of time so that we pay attention to them. But the locusts are mentioned in Surah Al-Qamar, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. So forgive me if I am, if I just have patience for me. I'm just going to read this to you, because the locusts coming out, it's a symbol of God's coming down. So my point is that in Islam, as well as in Judaism, as well as in Christianity, the sign of judgment is here. It's exciting. The hour has come, is near. The moon has split. The moon has split. And here we're getting a hybrid eclipse with the sun. It's just very cool. And if they see a miracle, this is interesting because this is kind of a telltale sign about today. And if they see a miracle, like these people, these rebellious people, they turn away and they say, it's passing magic. It's nothing more. And they denied and followed their inclinations. They just followed after their own hearts. That's the people today. That's what they do. But for every matter is a time of settlement. For everything you do, you're going to be judged for it. There's going to be a reason there's going to be a recompense for the things that you do. And that has already come to them of information that in which there is deterrence, extensive wisdom, but warning them does no avail. Basically what he's saying is that the people today, they're not listening. You can give them a sign, you can give them a miracle, they don't care. This is in the Bible too, by the way. When Abraham, right? Abraham was with was with Christ, with God. And then on the other side of the chasm, the deep chasm, was the man, where Abraham was in the bosom of God after he lived his life. But on the other side was this other guy who was like he was in hell. And there was this chasm that was deep. Because the truth is, there is a chasm between carnality and spirituality, divinity, if you will. You cannot have carnality in spirituality. There's no way. But God gave us the keys of hell. They gave us the keys to the gate of hell. We have power over those gates. My point of saying this is that he said, will you please send somebody back from the dead? Will you tell them so that they listen and then they repent? Because this guy was really upset because Lazarus was now in Abraham's bosom as well when he was burning and just wanting to dip his finger in a little water just to cool his tongue. Day of suffering, a day of evil. It's upon us. But people won't change if they see a miracle. That's what this is saying. They'll say, it's passing magic. I saw the same show at Vegas. This guy says this guy says that, and then it happens. It doesn't mean nothing. Just because he says that he's inspired by God and that he hopes that God's going to speak through him and use him, and that year after year we could kind of prove that maybe God's moving us in the right direction. But they're like, what does it matter? They follow after the prophets that are liars, the people that don't even know God. Even a warning won't avail them. A warning won't avail. So, he says, leave them, O Muhammad. The day the caller, also summoner in other texts, the day the caller calls to something forbidding, their eyes humbled, they will emerge from the graves as if they were locusts spreading, racing toward the caller. The disbelievers will say, this is a terrible day. The people of Noah denied before them. Same thing. And they denied our servant, and they said, a madman. This guy's a nut. He's drinking wormwood tea. We don't got who's this guy? That's what they're going to say. So he invoked his Lord, and he said, indeed, I'm overpowered, so help. Then we opened the gates of heaven with rain pouring down, and caused the earth to burst with springs, and the waters met for a matter already predestined. This is an interesting thing. And we carried him on the construction of planks and mills. This is interesting because it's talking about a resurrection that's going to take place in the midst of a people that are so messed up. It's going to be like locusts swarming. So that's the day that we're in, a difficult day, a day that Noah said things. So there's a lot of weird things happening. April 20th, it's Eid. It's the end of Ramadan. It's the beginning of the feast. So is it possible? Could it be possible that we could be seeing this spiritually speaking? There was the deluge, the rain that took place. There were the locusts that were spreading from the graves. Could this be a sign of judgment and of resurrection? I think so. But for many, 420 started with an emergency alert. Michael Scott DM'd me saying, hey, is this trending today? And I had just seen Marfugel had just posted about this emergency alert. It's a test. It's a test of the emergency alert system on 420. And it seemed like everybody was posting about it. Everybody was freaked out about it. They were making jokes about it, memes about it, one after the other. 420, emergency. It just seemed very strange, especially with everything that's going on. So then this morning, as I'm scrolling through this feed and I'm looking at all of these reports, and then I'm thinking about the SpaceX launch, which was just a marvel. Just a marvel. The largest craft ever made a launch today, and it is on its way out into the heavens. But then after I saw this, and after all the reveling, I got upset. I got a little nervous because I was reminded of a video I did exactly 1 year ago where SpaceX crashed. The ISS, the space station, it's being powered by the Dragon. SpaceX Dragon delivers solar arrays to the International Space Station. Now, Why is this interesting to me? This is where I get freaked out. You know, I had a dream, right? I had a dream. I was standing and I was looking towards, I guess, New York City. And there was a big like a mushroom cloud explosion. I didn't know if it was a nuclear bomb or a dirty bomb or whatever, but I knew because there was a SpaceX rocket. It was a missile or a rocket that was SpaceX that came and went. It's very strange because the dragon is cast back into the earth and it drags a third of the stars. So in the midst of this mind-blowing achievement from Elon Musk and the SpaceX team, this has never been done before. In the midst of it, we must ask ourselves.
We're flying at twice the thrust of a Saturn V heading to space.
Even though moments after takeoff, it did explode. It had 33 rockets. 33 you're going to find is a very important, significant number for today's show because it symbolizes resurrection.
Yeah, it does appear to be spinning, but I do want to remind everyone that everything after clearing the tower was icing on the cake.
A remarkable achievement. But yet, could it possibly be that in the midst of all this madness, God's going to use the madness to bring people back? I think so. Trump just announced that if he's president, he'll overhaul the justice system. If you saw my last show, you know I just talked about that. I've been talking about that for a long time, and it's going to happen because it's happening in Israel right now. The justice system's being overhauled. That's why they're having a lot of protests or whatever else. But this rare hybrid eclipse that's happening on April 20th is huge. It's also interesting to me that SpaceX launch, which was supposed to take off a couple of days ago. Elon, of course, is like, well, maybe it was destined for 420 because people are like, it should be 420. Same day the blue check mark thing goes, right? They're both happening on 420. You know, 420, a lot of people say that's the day where you get high. That's where you get high. It's like the pot day. That's what they say. Would it be something if 420 was a place to get spiritually high, if you will, heavenly speaking? And I don't mean like, you're Pastor Dude of the Holy Spirit. There's like a whole movement of that, by the way, if you didn't know. There was a meteor that just went over Israel. It's huge. But Larry Bob pointed out, before I even taped the show, he sent me something on Twitter. He's like, did you know that a meteor exploded on February 13th of this year over France in the exact same spot where Joan of Arc was put to death? He was so excited about this because, it's a very interesting and symbolic thing. And this thing went down, I think it was around the same time as the Super Bowl. And it was like the size, they were calling it the size of 2 Super Bowl trophies. Interesting. 33 is symbolic of resurrection. We see 3. The Super Bowl from 2 years ago that I sort of predicted, right? 3. The Super Bowl from last year that I sort of predicted. I should have known. 3. 33. We had the thing with Damar Hamlin. 3. 33. That's the time. That's when you wake up. Christ was put to death at 33. He was resurrected at 33. The odds of the Eid moon being, because it has to be, a new moon or a crescent sighting. Once they see it, that's when the festival ends. Same time that there is this hybrid eclipse going on. A hybrid solar eclipse is a combination of an annular and total eclipse where the former becomes the latter and then it reverses back. That's a message in itself. The former becomes the latter and it goes back. The last shall be first and the first shall be last. Do you not see the sun? It's a beautiful thing to me. I just believe that this is very important because the last predicted occurrence, here we go again, it's 33, 133 years. The alignment after this month is expected in 2031. The last predicted occurrence, 133 years ago. According to space.com, it's impossible to view both an annular and total during the same hybrid event. To timing and location, you'd have to move quick. So, you know, this SpaceX launch, this is a big deal. This is like the first of its kind. This thing's huge. And they alerted that they scrubbed their first attempt for Starship, the world's, by the way, most powerful rocket ever to launch in world history. This is a big deal. In Boca Chica, Texas, due to a valve issue. Turned out that there was a valve. That's all it was about. It was about the valve. I think it had something to do with fuel and a fuel valve, but the valve was frozen. A valve is something that needs to obviously operate. But what was weird about all this was I had been on this trumpet kick myself. The trump that I tried to sound today I was having a problem. Before every show, I sound the alarm so that everybody in the house knows to be quiet and not come bang on the door when I'm taping. But I could barely get a sound out of it. But the valve on a trumpet, it's an important thing. I told everybody, I said one of the most important, remarkable features is its valve, which allows the trumpet to change pitch. It's kind of like you can go higher. If your valve is frozen, you can't go higher. So I was seeing some kind of a correlation between the two. For a valve to function properly, it probably also needs some oil. Here we see, you want to go to the heavens? Is your valve frozen? You get what I'm saying? You see how I'm putting that together? A trumpet is a wind instrument, people. When it sounds, it vibrates all alone without need of anything but your lips and breath. Think about that for a second. I shared this on Twitter. If you're not following me on Twitter, it's JacobIsrael71. Why don't you follow me on Twitter, will you? And I'll do some tweets at you. The Holy Spirit is as a mighty rushing wind. Mighty rushing wind. It's like we're the instrument. God's Spirit is the breath, if you will, the breath of life that's put into us. How does it sound? Is your valve frozen? It's interesting. At the gym on Sunday, I'm watching Stephen Furtick. I know people give this guy a guy could preach. Sometimes I like to, I work out to his stuff, and I think he's just very insightful many times. And he had a great message about the trumpet, about the instrument. What hand is your instrument in? Is it in, if you could take an instrument, you put it in somebody who doesn't know how to play it, probably the instrument's kind of going to waste. But you put it in the hands of somebody who can play it. He did a great presentation of it. But it's just amazing how I feel like we're at the time where we need to sound the alarm. We need to use our voice. I believe the day is when God's going to raise up people to do just that. With Eid around the corner, Eid has to do with Abraham and Isaac and the sacrifice. Very misunderstood passage of Scripture. Abraham, who was a guy, he was really the first person that he didn't have a Bible, nobody told him anything. They had a bunch of other gods that they worshiped, but he just had a feeling inside there was more. God called him away, just like he called me away, just like he called you away. He says, come on, I'm going to bring you to a land you don't know yet. You're going to inherit it. It's going to be a great thing. He suffered along the way. God says, you're going to have this child. And he goes, oh yeah, I know. I'm going to have a kid. That's right, sure. But he's like, I'm an old man. How am I going to do this? You're an old person. How are you going to do it? You're set in your ways. Oh, it's like the world's coming to an end now. How am I going to have a kid? How am I going to have a child? I've been through this for a long time, Jacob. I've been watching your channel forever. It's too late for me. Christ ain't rising in my heart. How can I speak? I'm so old. Right? That's what Abraham was saying. So what did he do? He went about to do it his own way. Ends up, creating an Ishmael. This is where you get the faith differences. Ishmael and Isaac, the two. And it's like you almost can branch it off and say Islam and Judaism, which some people say. But that's not really the point of the message. The point of the message is he gets his Isaac. He finally does. And then God says, I want you to get up now and sacrifice it. You remember now, Isaac at this time is probably about 40 years old. He's not like a little baby. So everybody has to worry about that. But it was really about not being attached to anything more than God. People misunderstand this. Isaac means, if I remember correctly, it means laughter. Just want to laugh. Will you still serve me if you have to lay that down and you got to suffer a little? Will you still serve me? Will you still serve me if things aren't going okay for you? You said, oh, you just wanted to have the bills paid. You got the bills paid now. What if they're not paid anymore? You see what I mean? See where I'm going with this? What if God, takes Isaac from you? Will you lay down your laughter to serve God? Will you be uncomfortable to serve God? Will you do it for God? I say, teach me the truth no matter what the cost. I say, oh Lord, please use me. I want to laugh. I don't want to be sad. But I want to serve you. I want to do the right thing. So what does he do? Eat. That's what it's all about. He thinks that he needs to sacrifice the one thing that, he finally got. Finally got that laughter in his heart, if you will. We're just saying that's what the name means, I think. Gets up there. He's about to get rid of it completely. And God's like, no. No. He already provided the sacrifice. And that was actually written in there too. Abraham took the wood. He took the wood and the burnt offering and he laid it upon his son. His son. This could kind of be a picture of like who you think you are in the world too. Like the idea of you. Who I am. I finally figured it out. I finally got there and now I got to lay it all down. He put the wood on his son. And they both went off together. And Isaac spake to Abraham, his father, and he said, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. And he said, behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb? Where's the lamb for the burnt offering? A lot of people are asking, where is Christ already? Where, with everything that's going on, this is great. Where is Christ? Abraham said, my son, God will provide himself a lamb. He will provide himself a lamb. He will provide himself a lamb. Himself is the lamb that he provides. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and he took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called from him and said, Abraham. And he had to do it again. He said, Abraham. He said, here I am. And he said, lay not your hand upon the lad. Now I know that you fear God. See, thou hast not withheld your son. You've not withheld your laughter. You've not withheld your comfort. You've not withheld your security. You've not withheld your savings. You've not withheld your health. Whatever you have that you've been waiting your whole life to get and you finally got it, God's saying you don't need to sacrifice it. But I want to know that you're ready to do it if you have to. And he's blessed because of it. And now we're blessed because of it. And that's what Eid's all about. So with the locusts, with the flooding of the rain, with the annular and the total, the eclipse, with the meteor that strikes over Israel. Meteor. So, I don't know. I believe God is speaking to us today. And I believe God is moving. And I think maybe, if the world looks ugly and everything else, I think something beautiful is going to happen. Don't you? So tell me in the comment section. Hit the like, subscribe. Go into the description of the video, get yourself some merch if you want. If you're a witness of God, get a witness. If you want to buckle up, if you're God's champion, get God's champion before it goes away. And it helps me, like you wouldn't believe, because this is my job. This is my passion became my job. I don't sell mattresses anymore. So it helps me and I appreciate it. But really what helps the most, just hitting like, just leaving a comment, and especially sharing it. And if you watch, making sure you're subscribed. I do a video like every other day. So don't forget about me. I won't forget about you. I love you. I'll see you in the comment section. Bye-bye.
September 10th. Mars hangs closer to the Earth than it has in 6,000 years. Like the light that led men from the east to a child in a manger, it could well be a sign of good things to come. Thomas James shall be his name. The world will change because of him. In the small town of Bethel, in a time not unlike our own, a child with a great purpose is born. Years later, alienated by his peers and abused, Thomas suffers a devastating loss. When it appears he has nothing left to live for in the world, this is when his true calling begins. while trying to escape the sinister powers that be, a terrifying vision haunts him. Miraculous events seem to follow the peculiar young man as he struggles to come to terms with what he was born to do. The stage is set. The time is at hand. The truth will rise and a revolution will begin. The startling revelation of who Thomas James is, truly, will change the lives of those around him and set off a chain of events long ago foretold. There is more to this novel than one might think. Inside these pages hides a treasure just waiting to be discovered. So if you've ever wondered if there's more to life, or why it is we suffer, then this story will not only captivate you, it may just open your eyes to a truth that could set you free. Find out what is in us all that makes us heed the calling.